To observe the precept, please say Namo Tassa 3 times. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Dutiyampi buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Dutiyampi dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Dutiyampi saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Tatiyampi buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Tatiyampi dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Tatiyampi saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Saranagamaнаṃ paripurnaṃ amavanti Pāṇātipātā veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami Adinna dāna veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami Kāmesu micchācārā veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami Musāvādā veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami Sura meraya majja pamadatthana veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami Idang me silaṃ Magga phala ñānassa Paccayo hotu Appamadena sampadeta Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Samanta cakkavalesu atra gaccantu devata. Saddhammang munirajassa sunantu sagga mokkadang. Dhammasavana kalo ayang bhaddanta. Dhammasavana kalo ayang bhaddanta. Dhammasavana kalo ayang bhaddanta. Ekayano ayang bhikkhawe maggo sattanang visuddhiya. Soka paridevanang samatikkamaya. Dukkha domanassanang atthangamaya. Nyayassa adhigamaya nibbānassa saccikiriyaya. Ayameva cattaro satipatthāna. Katame cattaro idha bhikkhawe bhikkhu. Kāye kāyanupassi viharati ātāpi. Sampajano satima vinaya loke abhijja domanasang. Vedanasu vedananupassi viharati ātāpi sampajano satima vinaya loke abhijja domanasang. Citte cittanupassi viharati ātāpi sampajano satima vinaya loke abhijja domanasang. Dhammesu dhammanupassi viharati ātāpi sampajano satima vinaya loke abhijja domanasanti. Dear Dhamma devotees, Dhamma brothers and Dhamma sisters, day before yesterday, I have talked about the samatha way of practice, which is important for us to calm down our mind, to get relaxation in our life, and to feel some sort of peace and happiness in temporary basis. Because during the practice of samatha, we can remove our certain defilements in temporary basis, while those defilements are not disturbing our mind, not distracting to us, we can experience peace and happiness for a certain period, but not for all the time. Because samatha practice doesn't have the power to totally eradicate all those defilements which are the real suffering creators in this world and in our life. If we really interested to get rid of worldly sufferings and to totally destroy the power of defilement, it is necessary to do the practice as vipassana. In another word, as satipatthana way of practice. Therefore, in Mahasatipatthana Sutta, which is the main source of all the vipassana practices, whichever way the teachers may guide us, without having proper help from that sutta, nobody can teach us the vipassana way of practice or the satipatthana way of practice. That is why the Buddha declared very clearly himself that ekayano ayang bhikkhave maggo. Ayang maggo, this satipatthana way of practice is the ekayano, one and only way. For what purpose? Sattanang visuddhiya, for the purification of the worldly beings. Purification of the worldly beings means purification the minds of the worldly beings. We cannot purify our body with the practice of vipassana. We are practicing vipassana or satipatthana practice to purify our mind. So that is why the Buddha said the first benefit of the satipatthana practice is the purification of the mind of the worldly beings. And after that, the Buddha said, Soka paridevanang samatikkamaya. For the overcoming of the grief and lamentation in our life, satipatthana is the one and only way. Dukkha domanassanang attangamaya, for the disappearance of our physical pain and mental sufferings. Satipatthana practice is the one and only way. Nyayassa adhigamaya, to attain the path knowledge, to destroy all the defilements, is the one and only way as the satipatthana way of practice. Nibbānassa satchikiriyaya, to realize the nibbāna in this world. Satipatthana practice is the one and only way, not the one and only way which other teachers may claim. Without proper application of mindfulness practice, there couldn't be any kind of other way to destroy the power of defilements. So we have to strongly confident in the word of the Buddha, not the words of the teachers. But people are too much attached to the teachers and too much inclined to their words. The important word is the Buddha's word. Most valuable word is the Buddha's word, not the simple teacher's words. So therefore, we the Buddhists, we the yogis, we the practitioners need to be very wise and considerating people to choose the way of practice in proper guidance. As the Buddha had claimed, when we directly follow the teaching of the Buddha, sure we can eradicate, we can remove, we can uproot, we can destroy all those defilements which are the creators of the sufferings, especially the major defilements which are named as lobha, dosa and moha, greed, hatred and illusion. They are the root causes of our suffering. To have existence after existence in our life, in the worldly being's life, the greed, or the another name of it, the craving, is the real cause to have new existences, whether we like it or whether we don't like it, whether we believe it or whether we don't believe it. That is the universal nature of the world, that when there will be defilement, there will be suffering. We cannot get rid of suffering without removing, without destroying, without ending all those power of the defilements. So that is why the Buddha had shown as the first benefit, mindfulness practice is the one and only way to have purification of mind. And it is not easy. Saying is so easy. We can turn and twist our lips just to say it. But it is really difficult when we do the practice to remove the defilement. Each and every moment, if we cannot properly apply, persistently apply, accurately apply the mindfulness, there isn't any way to drive the defilements away from our mind. Each and every time the defilements are watching us and trying to find out the entering way, how to enter to the mind of the worldly beings and disturb them and give lot of trouble and suffering and problem to them. That's how the defilements are waiting for chances, moment to moment, moment after moment. That is why the Buddha said, we must apply the mindfulness without any gap, constantly, continuously, accurately, meticulously, persistently. So many words can be applied how to use the mindfulness practice as the Satipatthana way of practice. We choose one of the suitable, easy object as the prime object or main object to place it, our mind properly focusing on it, and apply the mindfulness with ardent effort, strong effort, powerful effort. That effort which can burn down the power of defilement. That is why the Buddha described 3 very meaningful words when he introduced the way of practice. Atapi sampajano satima. These 3 words we shouldn't forget according to the Mahasatipatthana Sutta. Atapa means the force to burn of the defilements. Without the mental sufficient force, powerful force, strong force of effort, perseverance, we cannot keep away the defilement from our mind. Lack of effort, we cannot generate any mindfulness in the practice. Strong mindfulness also required with clear comprehension. That means with proper understanding. Mindfulness practice should be done with an understanding. If we simply think, just observing something is enough, and that will be our mindfulness. No. Mindfulness is the strong power of mind. Very, very powerful mind. It has dynamic force in the mindfulness. Although there are so many other good factors, beautiful factors, wholesome factors to generate wholesome mind, but the Buddha gave preference to the mindfulness, awareness. Satima, be mindful, be aware, be alert, be heedful, be diligent. So many words could be applied to get the meaning of mindfulness. Simply we use the word mindfulness. Actually, mindfulness means not just only remembering something or memorizing something. Actually, mindfulness is all the time present in our mind. Presence of the mind also, meaning of mindfulness. Attentiveness to the present is also another meaning of mindfulness. Observing power, also another name of mindfulness. That is why whenever we try to introduce to the yogis to look at the object very carefully, accurately, persistently, precisely, meticulously, without missing it, we observe the object. Just not only mindful the object, observe the object, because with that observation we need to see the object penetratingly to realize the actual nature of the phenomena, actual nature of physicality and mentality, or the psychophysical phenomena, or in another way, the mind and matter. But immediately we cannot observe whole process of mind and matter. So that is why at the beginning, to train our mind, we need to choose simple, gentle, easy matter to observe. For the samatha practice, the easy object is in-breath and out-breath. The breathing process is the object. But according to the experience of late Venerable Mahasi Sayadaw, with the guidance of his own teacher, late Venerable Mingun Jetwan Sayadaw, Mahasi Sayadaw introduced to the yogis when they want to practice satipatthana, way of practice or insight practice. He said to observe the movement of the abdomen. Please remember the word. Teachers are not telling us to observe the abdomen. Actually, it is not to observe the abdomen, but the movement of the abdomen. So that makes lot of difference. Otherwise, people criticize what sort of nonsense object is given to do the satipatthana way of practice. Watching the abdomen. What use for it? Lot of people criticize, and even some people don't want to take the abdominal movement as the prime object of the Satipatthana way of practice. Rising, falling, we have to observe it, or we have to make the mental note. Whenever there will be movement on the abdominal area, especially in the navel area, and it rises and falls because of the breathing process. But we are not trying to observe the breathing process, but trying to see the movement of the rising, falling. So, when we naturally breathing in, automatically there will be rising process or upcoming process, up-moving process of the abdomen. So we just observe from the beginning to the end that movement, and we observe it, we notice it, we try to note it as rising. When we breathe out, automatically there will be down-going movement of the abdomen that we name as falling. So, rising as rising, falling as falling. For the new yogis, for the brand new yogis, it is true at the beginning it is very difficult for them to penetrate or to see the rising and falling movement, because we have to breathe naturally. We don't need to breathe hard to produce the rising and falling. If we do that, we get tired immediately. So, mindfulness practice itself, the natural practice. So everything should be natural in our practice. We shouldn't create anything and we shouldn't remove anything. Just be there as it is. Observe it as it is. So when rising process will be there, observe it from the beginning to the end. When falling process will be there, observe it as falling from the beginning to the end. At the beginning, although the yogis could not see whole process, rising as rising and falling as falling, sometimes they may see only the beginning, sometimes only on the halfway, and sometimes in the end. Anyway, our attempt should be to observe whole process of rising from the beginning to the end, but lack of exercise and lack of experience at the beginning, we may not be able to do that. So whatever object is there, beginning or middle or in the end one, be there with rising as rising, falling as falling. And to have that sort of mindfulness on the rising and falling, so therefore, first of all, it is necessary to produce effort as the mental energy to proceed in the practice. To get the rising and falling at the present moment, when the rising and falling is present there, right aiming should be applied. We need to aim to get the rising and falling. Without precise and accurate aiming, mindfulness doesn't fall on it precisely and accurately. So, from the beginning, the effort should be there. I will well focus on the abdominal area to get the rising process from the beginning, being alert, being watchful and careful to catch the beginning part of the rising. Mental effort should be applied. With that effort, when we apply the mindfulness right there at the same time, then we can see and observe and know and note rising as rising and falling as falling. That is why from the beginning I said our effort should be very powerful, strong enough to pinpoint our mind on the object. Directing force should be there. If we cannot direct our mind towards the abdominal area and have the precise aiming effort, we cannot see the rising and falling in the beginning. So, each and every moment I won't miss the rising and falling. I will catch immediately the rising and falling without missing it. That sort of energetic effort and energetic mindfulness need to be applied and note it and know it. Rising as rising and falling as falling. To understand the power of the rising, the mindfulness, therefore, we need to understand the characteristic of the mindfulness, the function of the mindfulness and the manifestation of the mindfulness. What is the characteristic of mindfulness? How it is described in the text. The characteristic is shown in the text as the apilapana lakhana sati. Sati never wobble on the object. Not wobbling is the characteristic of mindfulness. If the mind wobbles, mindfulness wobbles, can we catch the object clearly? We cannot. At that time, our observation will be superficial, superficial. Only arising in the surface, cannot go deep down into the object. To make understandable, so the simile is given. When we throw a cock in the stream, what will happen to the cock at that time? Can the cock sink down to the bed of the stream? Cannot. It only pop up and down in the stream. It doesn't have any power to sink down into the water. And that is the superficial way of mindfulness. But actually mindfulness is not superficial one. Very dynamic, very powerful, penetrating. Power is there in mindfulness. So therefore, when we throw a pebble in that stream, what will happen to the pebble? That pebble immediately sinks down and it reaches to the bed of the stream. It doesn't pop up on the surface of the stream. Similar way, when real mindfulness arises in our practice, mindfulness penetratively enter into the object without missing to note and know the object. That is the characteristic of mindfulness. Until we can generate that kind of mindfulness, that sort of mindfulness, we cannot have concentration also. We cannot develop concentration at that time. So that's how we need to make the very powerful effort, strong effort, diligent effort to produce the right mindfulness with the full of meaning. Producing the characteristic of the mindfulness and try to go deeply into the object with penetration. At that time, we are sure that we never miss the object to clearly observe it. Rising also will become very obvious and clear, distinct. Falling also becomes very clear and distinct. At that time, we can see the various natures of the object without any kind of thinking, without any kind of planning, without any kind of thought. Without any kind of imagination. Not necessary, I want to have this and this and this type of experiences in rising and in falling. Not necessary. Everything will become automatic and we can see everything, we can experience everything as they are. And that is the characteristic of the mindfulness. And what is the function of mindfulness? Asammosa rasa. mindfulness doesn't become forgetful. We never forget to observe the object clearly. When the real mindfulness arises, it works to see clearly the object without having disappearance of the object. Full-fledgedly we can cover the object and know the object precisely, because immediately the mindfulness acts not to miss the object. When we don't miss the object, sure we can observe the object precisely at the same time. So, while we are in the practice of mindfulness, we should be alert enough not to miss any part of meditational object, not to give any chance to disappear. We shouldn't be absent-minded at the time. Fully being alert, we have to observe the object. And that is the function of the mindfulness, function of the sati. And the manifestation of the sati is Visaya Bhimukhi Bhava Pachupatthana. Mindfulness all the time, directly going to the object, not indirectly. When real mindfulness arises in our practice, we can see the object face to face. When we talk to the people, how we need to talk to them. Turning the face other side and we talk to them, or we just try to face to face and talk to them. Which way we talk to them? If we are rightly talking to them with proper interest, we never turn our head other side when we are talking. We are looking at the face and contacting eyes with the eyes, and we talk without any hesitation. So, with confidence, when we talk face to face, at that time, that talk will be effective and powerful and accepted. So when mindfulness arises in the practice in real sense, mindfulness never turns side by side and turns down. It goes directly face to the object. That is how the mindfulness don't miss the object, and it penetrates the object and can see every nature of the object. All the phenomenal nature clearly come out in the practice. Whatever physical phenomena would be there, whatever mental phenomena would be there, we can clearly see them, clearly penetrate them, clearly observe them without missing any part of it. And mindfulness shouldn't be applied delaying ourselves. Mindfulness should be applied immediately, constantly, when the object is right there. When the object disappears, if you apply mindfulness, no use, no meaning, no practice. So the mindfulness falls into the object directly with full power. And that is the manifestation of mindfulness. And this is the explanation given in Abhidhamma text. But there is again another meaning we have to try to understand. Depending on the word, which way the Buddha used the word. He doesn't use the word just only as sati. He used the word combining with patthana. The patthana also have very strong, powerful meaning. Sati, so simply we say mindfulness. And what is patthana? Patthati patthanang upatthati atho. That is the meaning given by the commentator. Patthati means upatthati. Upa means closely. Tha means standing still. That means when sati arises, it arises closely to the object and stands still there. That is the meaning of upatthana. What does it mean then when we apply the mindfulness? We must apply the mindfulness as closer as possible, not from the distance. Not from the distance. We have to observe each and every object very closely, very closely. If we try to look at the object from distance, there won't be any clarity. That's how we miss the object, and we cannot see the object. We cannot penetrate the object. Everything needs to be looked carefully and need to look keeping closer and closer and closer. When we want to see something clearly, how we do that? We put the thing on the palm and we widely open the eyes and try to see the object. Closely, closely, not from distance. We don't put the thing in distance from our eyes. We place it very close to the eyes, and in this way we try to look at it to see the nature of the thing. So mindfulness also have that sort of power. So therefore the patthana word meaning is given as upatthati. Stand still, closely, and watch it, observe it, see it, look at it gaze it, then only you can know, oh, this thing is this sort of characteristic is there, this sort of chemicals are there, this sort of natures are there. Immediately we can know it. And again, the patthana word is divided into two words, pa and thana. And that single word pa has very specific meaning, very powerful meaning. Pathananti etta pasado bhusatta visitan dipeti. The commentator explained again. In patthana, the single pa has bhusatta, very strong, visitta, specific meaning. What? Those specific and strong meaning denotes by the pa. Pakkhanditva pattharitva okkantitva pavattatiti atho. The specific meaning is given in 3 words. Pa denotes, pa means okkantitva. When the mindfulness arises, the mindfulness goes into the object or immersing into the object. So immersing power also there in that pa. Pakkhanditva. So that is why when we try to do the vipassana practice and we apply the mindfulness, we shouldn't be delayed. There isn't any time to think, any time to plan, any time to imagine. We have to leap immediately towards the object. We should jump into the object or dive into the object, plunge into the object. And mindfulness has that plunging power also, diving power also, attacking power also. When we want to get something very important and valuable, if we see on the road, what we do immediately? Do we move slowly as snail? No. If the thing which we have seen on the way, very precious one, immediately we dash towards the object and pick it up. So that sort of dashing power also has in mindfulness. Plunging power also has in mindfulness. So that way we have to apply the mindfulness immediately, whenever the object arises moment to moment. If we little bit become sluggish and lazy, we cannot apply that forceful mindfulness in the practice. And another one is pattaritva pavatati, when mindfulness arises. In real sense, mindfulness doesn't miss any part of the object, even a single tiny bit of corner. It spreads all over the object in one shot, and it holds it without giving any chance to miss any part of the object. That is why the commentator used the word pattaritva, spreading all over the object, so mindfulness catch the object. That's how the penetrating power arises in the yogi's practice. That's how later part, when they get good exercise and mindfulness becomes powerful and sharp enough, and concentration also coming in moment to moment as the momentary concentration, not deep type of concentration. In vipassana practice, deep type of concentration, one-pointed type of concentration is no use. So there should be powerful momentary concentration. Each time, mind directly concentrated on the object, and when we apply the mindfulness, so it covers everything without missing them. And that is the meaning of satipatthana. So the satipatthana word is not simple way applied word, very powerful, meaningful word Buddha had used. And we should know that meaningful meaning ourselves when we try to do the practice. So any sort of inactiveness is no use in the practice of mindfulness. So therefore the teachers are all the time guiding us, be mindful all the time. Be alert all the time. Don't give any chance to have any gap in your noting. Constantly, continuously, precisely, clearly, accurately, meticulously, you need to apply the mindfulness. So non-stop awareness or mindfulness need to be applied if we really want to get the success in the practice. When we say in this way, all the yogis might be afraid of, oh, we cannot do that, we cannot place it, that sort of mindfulness in our practice. How we can do it non-stop applying mindfulness? Buddha never introduced us, never suggested us which we cannot do. We can do, that is why the Buddha said, oh, you can do, you shouldn't be lazy, you shouldn't be sluggish, you should be active, you shouldn't be inactive. If you are active, if you are really willing to do the practice, if you are really wanted to get rid of suffering in your life, you can do it. So, we have to write in our middle of the heart, C-A-N. Okay? If we write the C-A-N in our middle of the heart, and then everything we can, never cannot. Can is very powerful word. So apply can. We can do also at the beginning only we may feel that, oh, it is so difficult to apply mindfulness, to be mindful all the time. But actually not like that. When right effort is there, right concentration is there, right mindfulness is there, we can do it non-stop practice. When actually mindfulness comes in with sharpness, even we don't want to sleep at night. All night we want to wake up and do the practice. That sort of energy comes in our practice. So the beginning part only difficult, but afterwards, after 1 week or something, if our energy is properly applied in the practice, it will become so nice and so beautiful and so easy. Effortless practice will be there. And at that time there won't be no pain, no physical pain, no distractions. Because of the concentration, mind stay right there each time. And the rising and falling becomes so predominant. We amaze at that time. What happened to my rising and falling? Before it is so difficult to see and penetrate and clearly observe. Now it is so easy like rise, fall, rise, fall, rise, fall. How nicely arising, rising and falling. That's how the rising and falling becomes more and more and more predominant and more and more and more clear afterwards. It is not just like breathing. The breathing practice, as much as we gain the concentration, so much so the object becomes invisible, subtle. Sometimes even we think we are forgetting to breathe. No breath is there. Sometimes we get afraid of it. What happened to me? I cannot breathe now. So we are afraid of dying. The rising and falling process is not like that. It becomes so obvious. Sometimes we cannot stop the rising and falling, so vigorous and so clear. Sometimes the rising comes in such a way as if the rising is coming out and going to stick to the wall. Yes, that way the rising becomes so vigorous and so big and so powerful. So therefore, the object of rising and falling for mindfulness is to strengthen our mindfulness and to strengthen our concentration. Very important. And very easy to see afterwards clearly what is mental phenomenon and what is physical phenomenon. We can clearly discriminate, this is the mind and this is the matter. The knowledge of discriminating of mind and matter becomes so clear, there won't be any doubt afterwards. So that is the first beginning of the vipassana jnana. But actually, the discrimination of mind and matter is not included in vipassana jnana. But it is the beginning to have the insight knowledge afterwards. So first of all, we get the understanding how the mind and matter works separately. But giving support each other. Mind without matter cannot arise. Matter without mind, useless. Yes, if we remove our mind from our body, please try to remove. What will happen? We are already dead, lah. Because of the mind we are surviving. Because of consciousness we are surviving. Because of consciousness we are knowing everything. If consciousness is not there, only the body will be there. What use of it? That's why the Buddha gave the example. This body is just as the thrown lock in the cemetery ground. Actually, after that, what we do? We also send the body to the cemetery. And afterwards it becomes what? Nothing. So earth element goes to earth. Heat element goes to heat. Water element goes to water. Wind element goes to wind. Nothing is there, just only remaining the dust. If we burn it, just remaining the ashes. So therefore, without this conscious mind in our life, this body is useless. Nobody take care of it also. Actually, when we die, before we say, oh, I love you so much, I love you so much. But when we die, keep it. Nobody wants to keep it, even doesn't want to dare to go near to it. That is what our life is. So, if we are afraid of all these universal law of suffering, universal law of suffering means having the new existences, also universal law, because we cannot avoid it till we have all sorts of defiling factors in our life. So death after new existence, again death and again another new existence, non-stop existence will be there, one after another. Actually we are dying moment to moment in this life also. Because we don't realize that, so we think we are surviving. Our mind is, once it arises, disappears. What happened? Same mind is coming back again? No. One disappears, another appears. One disappears, another appears. So, one is dying, another is surviving. Similar way, our physical things also changing all the time, changing all the time. Not same thing all the time. That is why the philosophers are using to say, same mind cannot cross the same river again. Because of the process of change. And the changing is so rapid, we think it is stable. Because of the fastness of change, we cannot see the change. We think it is stable. Yesterday also I am. Today also I am. Tomorrow also today I am. But not same person. Already changed. That's why it is necessary in the vipassana practice we need to see the changing process. When each object observed, suppose we are observing rising and we are noting it, what happened? Rising also disappears, noting mind also disappears. Another rising arises, and that also arises and disappears. At the beginning we cannot see it, but later part, when we discriminately divide the mind and matter process, and after that gradually there will come the another understanding how the cause and effect process arise. How the cause and effect process arise. Now we can see the cause of the arising of the mind and matter, and then we know, the mind and matter arising themselves. There is no anybody to create the mind and matter to arise. And after that, when we realize the causes and effect of the mind and matter, our understanding will deepen, and it will become faster and faster and faster. And later part we can see rising arises, disappears, rising by falling arises, disappears. That is why the Buddha said it is not permanent, it is impermanent. And when all these things are impermanent, not in our hand, where to find out happiness in our life? Which one is producing happiness in our life? Because of the nature of impermanence, the Buddha said suffering. Impermanent nature is actually the suffering. If everything is permanent, there might be happiness. But if all those physical and mental phenomena are changing all the time, appearing and disappearing all the time, where to grasp this is mine, this is me, this is I, if there is no I which is so high? Our I is so high. That is why we need to quarrel each other, one another. Because of I, because of me, because of he, because of she, because of you. Division is there. When division is there, argument also comes. That's how we quarrel each other, that's how we fight each other, that's how we get disappointment in our life, sorrow in our life, lamentation in our life, hatred in our life. When we realize, this life is nothing arising and passing away, there is no any aspect which could be grasped as I, my, mine. So we can understand the selfless nature of our life, a suffering nature of our life. Because of suffering, the non-self nature is there. So these are connected each other, one another, these three characteristics. So the Buddha said, when you truly realize these three characteristics, natures of the vipassana, then it will be easier for you to get away from the defiling factors. There is nothing to attach, nothing to grasp, nothing to handle, nothing to hold as desirous, as pleasurable, as one's own property. Nothing is there. So where to get angry and where to get attachment and where to grasp strongly, there is nothing to grasp. So that way, when we get really such understanding, what will happen to those defilements? Will it be strong enough like now in our life? No. It will become weaker and weaker and weaker. And one day when we reach to the part and fruition knowledge, at that time they are totally uprooted and eradicated from our life. And then only we can see the happiness or the eradication of defilement is the happiness, is the peace. A real peace is there. But at the moment which we are talking about peace, it is artificial peace, not real peace. So please try to realize all these things through the practice of Satipatthana Vipassana way of practice and get the right understanding in our life, and may all of us get rid of worldly sufferings. Sorry, today I took lot of time of yours. Now we share the merit. Idang no nyati nang hotu Sukhita hontu nyatayo Idang no nyati nang hotu Sukhita hontu nyatayo Idang no nyati nang hotu Sukhita hontu nyatayo Ettavata ca ammehi Sambadang punya sambadang Sambe dewa anumodantu Samba sambadhi siddhiya Ettavata ca ammehi Sambadang punya sambadang Sambe satta anumodantu Samba sambadhi siddhiya Ettavata ca ammehi Sambadang punya sambadang Sambe bhuta anumodantu Samba sambadhi siddhiya Sadhu, sadhu. To observe the precept, please say Namo Tassa 3 times. Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi Dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi Dutiyampi buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi Dutiyampi dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi Dutiyampi sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi Tatiyampi buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi